Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're a focused learner gearing up for the AB-410 exam, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to tackle a massive chunk of your certification journey, and that is mastering cloud flows. And we aren't just going to sit here and memorize facts, right? We're going to use this kind of digital assembly line approach to build a crystal clear mental model of how business application logic and automation actually work in the real world.
And honestly, the sheer size of this requirement absolutely demands your attention, because while creating a foundation and building intelligent apps each make up about 25 to 30% of the exam, building business application logic and automation demands a whopping 40 to 45% of your focus. I mean, it's the heavyweight champion of the AB-410 syllabus. It is practically half the exam, which makes Cloud Flows the absolute make or break section for getting your certification. So to help you conquer that 45%, here's our roadmap for today. 1. The AB-410 automation imperative. 2. The Spark, triggers and connectors. 3. The engine, actions and logic. 4. Managing human approvals. And finally, number 5, testing and troubleshooting. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the AB-410 automation imperative, which is the absolute core of logic and automation.
You know, when the study guide mentions build business application logic and automation, mastering cloud flows is really what's front and center. I want you to visualize cloud flows as the nervous system of your automated applications. Just like your own nervous system takes in signals from the outside world and tells your muscles to react, cloud flows take in digital signals and command your apps to perform specific business processes. You simply cannot master this 45% exam block without understanding exactly how this digital nervous system is wired together. Moving right along to Section 2, the Spark. We're talking triggers and connectors, which is all about starting that digital assembly line. The foundation of every single flow requires you to clearly distinguish between these two key elements. So connectors, think of those as your bridges to data sources. They're the supply lines bringing raw materials like SharePoint, Dataverse, or Outlook right into your factory. Triggers, on the other hand, are the critical on switches. They are the exact specific events that kick off the process. Basically, you need the bridge to access the data, but you absolutely need the event to spark the action. Now, on the AB-410 exam, you aren't just going to be asked what these things are, you are going to be tested on your ability to apply them to actual business scenarios. So you need to be able to evaluate connectors, meaning, given a specific set of business requirements, which supply line actually makes the most sense to use. And you also have to be able to recommend cloud flow triggers. If a business needs a process to start the second a high priority email arrives, or maybe exactly at 8 a.m. every single Monday, you must know exactly which trigger to recommend to make that happen as efficiently as possible. All right, Section 3, the engine. This is actions and logic, where we make the flow do the actual work. If the trigger is the on switch we just talked about, then configuring cloud flow actions is really about building the robotic arms of our assembly line. An action is the specific operation or task that gets executed after the trigger fires. It's the heavy lifting, whether that's creating a new row in a database, sending out an automated email response, or updating a record somewhere. Configuring these actions correctly is exactly how your flow successfully executes the business requirements they're going to throw at you in those exam scenarios. But obviously, a flow isn't always just a straight, simple line, is it? The syllabus specifically calls out implementing flow control with conditions and loops. I want you to think of these as the traffic cops directing the items on your conveyor belts. In step 1, your flow evaluates a condition. For example, it asks, hey, is this expense report over $1,000? Step 2 is executing the branch based on that specific logic. If yes, send it down the manager review belt. If no, auto-approve it. And then step 3 is the loop, because sometimes you just need your robotic arm to repeat an action for every single item in a list. Grasping how these 3 steps control the routing of your automated logic is incredibly vital for the exam. Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, managing human approvals. Welcome to the human in the loop phase. I actually want to pause here for a second and ask you a direct question. In a purely automated system, how do you handle a human bottleneck? It's kind of a fascinating problem, right? You've built this lightning-fast digital assembly line, but suddenly you need a living, breathing manager to look at a document and say yes or no before the robots can actually continue. How do you integrate that manual pause without completely breaking your automation logic? While the answer, and a major focus of the AB-410 exam, is cloud flow approvals. This is how you seamlessly handle those human-in-the-loop scenarios. It's basically the built-in capability to manage decision-making by dynamically routing requests to specific users for their review. The flow literally just pauses its execution, waits patiently for the human to click approve or reject in Teams or Outlook, and then uses that decision to route the rest of the flow. You are absolutely expected to know how to configure these approvals to keep the entire business process secure and compliant.
Finally, we hit Section 5, Testing and Troubleshooting Flows. This is our critical quality control phase. Because let's face it, building a flow is really only half the battle. You must understand the fundamental difference between these two phases. Testing is proactive. You are validating your logic and running test data before you ever deploy into a live environment. Troubleshooting, on the other hand, is reactive. That's when you're digging into the run history and reading error codes to fix a deployed flow that has already failed. The exam is going to test your ability to effectively execute both of these disciplines. Which leaves us with one final vital question. Are your flows ready for the real world? Passing the AB-410 exam means proving you can build reliable, logical automations that solve actual, real-world business problems. By mastering triggers, actions, human approvals, and troubleshooting, you aren't just memorizing stuff for a test. You're empowering yourself to be a true architect of efficiency. The tools are all right there. The only question is, how will you build your assembly line?